We are, of course, coming up on Halloween, and now's as good of a time as ever to take a look at some of the upcoming horror games that will be dropping in the future. These are games that are coming as soon as next week to games that you won't be able to play until 2022. But a lot to pick from for fans of horror titles, so let's just get right into it, and let's start off with Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater. Yes, Fatal Frame is back. Maiden of Blackwater is celebrating the 20th anniversary of the horror franchise, and it is a franchise that's been around for a very long time. And while the game initially came out in 2014 on the Nintendo Wii U, let's be honest, how many of you had a Nintendo Wii U? This time around, it'll be coming to just about every platform from the Nintendo Switch, PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S. Maiden of Blackwater is going to be a game that would definitely have that emphasis of horror going on for it, and hopefully it makes a smooth transition and brings it up to speed to a 2021 audience when it does drop on October 28th. Next up, we have the Outlast Trials, the latest game in the Outlast franchise, one of the most iconic horror game franchises of the last decade, coming from Red Barrels. This is a bit of a different game within the Outlast universe, being a PvE title. It's a game you can play by yourself, or you can play with others online. You'll have to survive in the twisted, sadistic, and bizarre world that is Outlast. Set in the era of the Cold War, human guinea pigs are involuntarily recruited by the good folks to test advanced methods of brainwashing and mind control. In a world of distrust, fear, and violence, your morals will be challenged, your endurance will be tested, and your sanity will be crushed, all in the name of progress, science, and profit. Now, this is a game we still don't know a ton about, and we don't know exactly when the game will be dropping, other than probably 2022, but given the fact that it's Outlast, given the fact that it's Red Barrels, and it's a little bit different of an Outlast title, I think it's going to have quite a bit of buzz as we get closer to its release in 2022. Next up, we have Blood West. Blood West is described as an immersive Wild West FPS where a revenant desperado takes on twisted demons and eldritch horrors in a cursed, desolate mining town. Hell is empty and all the devils are here. Plan your steps, be stealthy, gain advantage, manage your resources, and paint the world dark red. The game already has a demo available on PC, so you can check it out there if you want, but it also notes challenging FPS combat, stealth tactics, or guns blazing bravado, exploration and resource management, trait-based character progression, and non-linear immersive gameplay. The visuals are definitely not anything to write home about, but it does have kind of an old school look going on for it, and I do dig that, so hopefully this is something that people do enjoy. We don't have a release date yet, but hopefully it does drop sometime in 2022. Next up, Ikai. This was a game that was originally expected to release later this month. Unfortunately, it will now be coming January of 2022, but hey, if that means the game is going to be better, then let's all be for it. Ikai notes fear and anxiety prevail after the darkest tales from Japanese folklore come to life in this first-person psychological horror game. Set in a feudal era, Ikai revolves around the priestess of a shrine struggling to defeat the spirits of her past and her present. The game definitely isn't one of those horror games that, unlike, let's say, Blood West, where you do have a gun, where you are a little bit empowered, Ikai is going to the route of leaving the player a bit more on the powerless side and making it more of a psychological driven horror game, which honestly speaking, that is the kind of horror game that is more so up my alley. Gameplay of the title notes fear, experience the horror in first person by the hand of Japanese spirits, monsters, and yokais. Exploration, wander around a feudal Shinto shrine and explore to unveil the story behind Nakao, the main character. Concentrate on drawing protective seals over the strange sounds and events happening around you. You're gonna have a bit of puzzles and stealth and run. Be silent, do not disturb the evil, or just run away from it all if you can. Again, Ikai is scheduled for a release in January of 2022. Next up, we have Escape the Walkie Horror Night. Horror Night is an online multiplayer co-op third and first person asymmetric horror adventure game. You have to escape the monster in a procedurally generated scenario by solving puzzles and finding items alongside your teammates. Characters can be customized through cosmetics and skins as well, and this is a game with a multiplayer focus, so you're definitely going to want to play with some friends. It notes explore and enjoy each match as its own unique experience because the mansion is procedurally generated each time you play, leading to a level of replayability. Play alongside your friends and don't let them catch you. You are rewarded for helping your teammates, solving puzzles, and working as a team to be able to escape the mansion. Each time you play, relive the experience of being lost in an unknown mansion. Since it's randomly generated, every time is going to feel like a new experience, and the monster can be customized as well through a variety of different skins, and obviously your character is going to have a level of customizability as well. We don't know when the game is going to be dropping. I would imagine sometime in 2022. Really does seem more of a throwback horror title, but it will be something to keep an eye on, especially if you want a multiplayer game. Next up, we have Martha is Dead. Martha is Dead is a pretty trippy psychological horror title. It's a dark first-person psychological thriller set in 1944 Italy that blurs the lines between reality, superstition, and the tragedy of war. The game notes Martha is Dead and her twin sister, the young daughter of a German soldier, must alone deal with the acute trauma of loss and the fallout from her murder. The hunt for truth is shrouded by mysterious folklore and the extreme horror of war that draws ever closer. The game notes unashamedly authentic voice acting in Italian from the creator of The Town of Light. Deep and dark multi-layered narrative explore a detailed recreation of the Italian countryside. Play with dolls, mixing folklore with superstition. You've got a backdrop of war in there as well. You'll be able to collect newspapers, telegrams, and listen to the radio to keep updated with what's going on. Virtual photographic greatness. Take pictures for the sheer pleasure of doing so, and also to progress through the story and authentic Italian music of the era. So it looks like it's obviously going for a high level of authenticity while also keeping that psychological horror in tow. The game is scheduled for a release in 2021. Given that we're already in late October, I would imagine that this is probably more likely to be a 2022 game, but hey, we'll keep you guys updated on it, and if it does drop this year, I'll definitely let you guys know. Next up, we have Choo-Choo Charles. Navigate an island in an old train upgraded over time and use it to fight an evil spider train named Charles who terrorizes your home. Charles is hungry, don't be his next meal. So this is a little bit more of a horror game that's definitely not going for the psychological side of things, but still definitely trying to be a bit spooky. The game notes, these winding tracks are treacherous, so you'll need to plan each mission. Be careful when clearing your path on foot or switching the track's direction because Charles might be waiting for you. Upgrade your train to fit your needs. Go looting or complete missions to find scraps which can be used to turn your train into a death machine on wheels, and get help from the townspeople as well. And then fight Charles to the death. Prove yourself a worthy train killer by gaining enough strength, firepower, and skill to take down the mechanical terror once and for all. Definitely more of an action-heavy horror title. The game is scheduled for a release in Q1 of 2022. Next up, we have the Dark Pictures Anthology, The Devil in Me. Of course, we just had the release of the Dark Pictures Anthology, House of Ashes, and as is tradition with the Dark Pictures, now we have the announcement of the next game that will be The Devil in Me, and this is described to be the Season 1 finale of the Dark Pictures. These games have been relatively well received, of course, done by Supermassive Games, the guys that brought you Until Dawn, and it seems like their games have been relatively consistent from a story standpoint and engaging the audience. House of Ashes was received pretty well as well, and now next year we're probably going to get the release of The Devil in Me. Don't know too much about it given that it's still just got announced, so as we hear more, we'll keep you guys posted. Next up, we have Level Zero, a multiplayer horror title as well. Level Zero is a tactical online first-person horror game where survivors must repair the space station and defend themselves with various devices while a team of monsters must prevent the station from being repaired or neutralize all survivors using their telepathic powers while avoiding the light. The game visually does look quite good, I have to say. I'm not going to say it's like a top-tier PlayStation 5 release or anything like that, but you look at the PC system requirements and those are pretty high-end as well. You've got a healthy level of lore in there as well, and again, a tactical online multiplayer FPS. Play alone or with friends against other real players in different modes such as 1v1, 2v2, 4v2. Game notes, it's a large, dark, and detailed game location to explore atmospheric graphics that can scare any player, a system of randomization of items and screamers which will make each round a unique horror experience. The game is scheduled for release Q4 of this year. Again, we're in late October at this point. We'll see if it does drop at the end of this year. Would probably count on it more so being a 2022 game. Next up, we have VHS, a free-to-play title. Choose between good and evil and fight for your life in VHS, a thrilling 4v1 asymmetric action tribute to the 1980s horror era where small-town teens face off against terrifying monsters brought to life from the aisles of a 1980s video store. Again, this one is a little bit more on the action-heavy side, so don't expect like a psychological horror here, but looks to be a pretty interesting game, and again, the 4v1 style of horror game has been something that's been around, and again, it's a free-to-play game, so you don't even have to invest anything. I'm sure it'll have microtransactions in the case. But if you want a multiplayer horror title, this one's going to be free to play and going to be something to keep an eye on. I would imagine a 2022 release window, but we don't have an official date as of the recording of this video. Next up, we have Once Upon a Time in Roswell. Once Upon a Time in Roswell is a first-person psychological horror that chronicles the story of the family's disappearance in 1947 in Roswell, USA. Explore the home while witnessing horrific flashbacks and otherworldly entities, conduct an investigation that can only lead to the most terrible result possible. The game notes a deep story from the streets of Paris to the mines of Roswell, traverse through rich and atmospheric environments, investigate, find evidence, and play through different memories of what could have happened to the family, survive, sneak past, and survive various enemies that may want more than your life. Again, this one is more of a slower-paced psychological horror game that's going to have a lot of detective elements, mystery in there as well. A horror game that I'm sure is going to be up the alley of many. It does note a scheduled release of late 2021, again, as we're heading into November. I would imagine that this is more likely to be a 2022 game. Next up, we have Unholy, which is dropping 2022. You play as a mother in search of her abducted child, venture through morbid streets of the last city on a dying planet, challenge a repressive regime under which your whole life is determined by which social caste you belong to. The game, from a presentation standpoint, based on the art that we're seeing thus far, looks very, very grotesque in its horror presentation, and I say that in the best way possible in terms of horror games. That's kind of what you want. The game notes engage first-person horror and stealth gameplay, engaging first-person horror and stealth gameplay, explore a rich story behind Last City and the mother's desperate quest to save herself and her child, immerse yourself in a uniquely dark environment never seen before, multiple ways to approach challenges through stealth or through exploiting the city's social order. Take good care of your physical and mental health, fight the enroaching madness, or deal with the consequences of going insane. Again, this game is scheduled for release in 2022. And lastly, I do want to give a mention to Sons of the Forest. This is a game that is, of course, a follow-up to The Forest, and The Forest was incredibly popular. We still don't know much about Sons of the Forest, but it's a game that I'd be remiss if I did not mention it. It's a game that I'm sure that when it does drop, it's going to have a lot of buzz surrounding it, given the mass appeal that The Forest had back when it initially came out. Hopefully, Sons of the Forest does get a new information drop soon. I could easily see this game being one that they're quietly working on. It's pretty far along, and then they just drop it out of nowhere, and it ends up being very successful. It's going to be successful either way. Hopefully, it just does deem to be a successful follow-up to a Forest from a gameplay and presentation standpoint. But that is going to do it for me. Again, we have a ton of compelling horror games that are coming in 2021, the rest of 2021, 2022. We'll see if any of these get delayed into beyond, but I'm sure more horror games are going to be in development. I'm sure even after the release of the Dark Pictures Anthology, The Devil in Me, that studio is going to continue working on stuff that is going to be right up the alley of those of you that have played those games. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming in the next year and a half, 2 years, so be on the lookout for that. That's going to do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.